The Zephyrian High Command thought they had humanity figured out. After all, we were just another primitive species on a backwater planet barely capable of interstellar travel. Our ships were crude, our weapons outdated, and our military tactics, well, let's just say they found them amusing. But here's the thing about humans that every galactic empire seems to forget. We don't fight fair. We don't follow the rules. And when you back us into a corner and threaten everything we hold dear, we become something far more dangerous than any advanced civilization could imagine. Today I'm going to tell you the story of how humanity's supposed last stand became the beginning of the end for the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever seen. This is the story of how Earth's final gambit turned a certain defeat into the most spectacular reversal in galactic history. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, I tell stories about humanity's place in the cosmos, specifically how we tend to surprise alien civilizations who underestimate us. And today's story? It's one of the most incredible examples of human ingenuity, determination, and sheer bloody-mindedness you'll ever hear. We're diving into the events of what historians now call the Terran Gambit, a desperate plan conceived when Earth had less than 72 hours before total annihilation. The Zephyrian Empire had given humanity an ultimatum: surrender unconditionally or watch every human world burn. What happened next defied every military strategist's expectations, broke several laws of physics, and proved once again that humans have a very different definition of impossible than the rest of the galaxy. I'll be covering how humanity turned their greatest weakness into their ultimate strength, why the Zephyrians' own advanced technology became their downfall, and the moment when the hunters became the hunted. Plus, I'll reveal the secret weapon that Earth had been developing in absolute secrecy, something so audacious that even human military command thought it was insane. Let me set the scene for you. The year is 2387, and humanity has been part of the galactic community for exactly 53 years. We're still considered the new kids on the block, young, inexperienced, and frankly, not taken very seriously by the established power. The Zephyrian Empire has ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 3 millennia. They're everything you'd expect from a galactic superpower. Technologically superior, militarily dominant, and absolutely convinced of their own superiority. Their ships are works of art, sleek, powerful, and equipped with weapons that can glass entire continents. Humanity, by comparison, is still using what the Zephyrians mockingly call kinetic toys, railguns, missile systems, and nuclear warheads that might as well be slingshots for all the damage they can do to Zephyrian shields. The conflict started over what seemed like a minor trade dispute. The Zephyrians wanted exclusive mining rights to the asteroid belt in the Sol system. Earth said no. The Zephyrians increased their demands. Earth said no again, but louder. What the Zephyrians didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that humans don't negotiate when it comes to our home. You can take our colonies, you can blockade our trade routes, you can even occupy our outer worlds, but the moment you threaten Earth itself, you've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. The Zephyrian response was swift and overwhelming. A battle fleet of 200 ships, each one larger than anything in Earth's navy, jumped into the Sol system and delivered their ultimatum. Admiral Kethvar, the Zephyrian commander, was so confident in his superiority that he broadcast his demands on all frequencies, making sure every human in the system could hear their fate being decided. "Primitive humans," his translated voice echoed across every communication device in the system. "You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. Your military will be disbanded, your government dissolved, and your world will become a Zephyrian protectorate. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why resistance is futile." Earth's response came from Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Terran Defense Force. Her reply was exactly 3 words. "Come and take it." The Zethrians laughed. They actually laughed. After all, what could Earth's pathetic fleet of 60 ships possibly do against their overwhelming force? They were about to find out that humans have a very different understanding of the word pathetic. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. Because while Admiral Kethvar was busy gloating about his inevitable victory, something was happening in the depths of Earth's military command that would change everything. You see, humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day we first encountered the Zephyrian Empire. Not because we wanted war. Humans generally prefer peace, despite what our history might suggest, but because we recognized a fundamental truth about galactic politics. Eventually, someone bigger and stronger would try to take what was ours. The Terran Defense Force had been working on something called Project Prometheus for the past 15 years. It was so classified that only 12 people in the entire solar system knew it existed. The project was based on a simple premise. If we couldn't match alien technology, we'd have to think like humans. Admiral Chen stood in the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Zephyrian fleet in perfect formation above Earth. Her staff was running calculations, trying to find some tactical advantage, some way to make their inferior numbers count. "Ma'am," her tactical officer said, his voice tight with stress, "even if we use every ship, every orbital platform, every defensive satellite, we can maybe take out 30 of their vessels before they overwhelm us. The math just doesn't work." Chen nodded slowly. She'd known this day would come. "Then we don't play by the math," she said quietly. "Signal all ships, execute Prometheus protocol." The room went silent. Everyone knew what Prometheus meant. It was the plan they'd hoped they'd never have to use. The plan that military ethicists had argued about for years. The plan that would either save humanity or damn them forever. "Ma'am," her communications officer said hesitantly, "are you sure? Once we activate Prometheus, there's no going back." Chen looked at the display showing Earth, blue and beautiful, and home to 8 billion human souls. "They want to take our world," she said. "They think we're weak because we're young. They think we're primitive because our technology is different." She turned to face her staff, and her eyes held a cold fire that would have made the Zephyrians reconsider their invasion if they could have seen it. "Let's show them what human ingenuity really looks like." The Prometheus protocol wasn't a weapon in any conventional sense. It wasn't a supership or a planet killer or some exotic energy beam. It was something far more dangerous. It was a plan that could only have been conceived by a species crazy enough to strap themselves to controlled explosions just to see what was on the other side of the sky. You see, humans had noticed something about Zephyrian technology that the Zephyrians themselves had forgotten. Their ships, their weapons, their entire military doctrine was based on energy manipulation. Plasma cannons, particle beams, force fields that could deflect any known projectile. But there was one thing their shields couldn't stop. One attack vector they'd never considered, because no civilized species would be insane enough to attempt it. Humans, as it turns out, aren't civilized. The first phase of Prometheus involved every human ship in the system doing something that violated every principle of space combat. They turned off their engines and began falling toward Earth. The Zephyrs watched in confusion as the entire Terran fleet appeared to retreat in the most cowardly fashion possible. Admiral Kethvar actually chuckled as he watched the human ships plummeting toward their own planet. "Pathetic," he muttered to his bridge crew. "They're so terrified they're abandoning their posts." He had no idea that he was watching the most audacious military maneuver in galactic history unfold before his eyes. What happened next is still studied in military academies across the galaxy, though most species refuse to believe it actually worked. As the human ships fell toward Earth, they weren't retreating, they were accelerating. Using Earth's gravity well, they were building up velocity that no conventional engine could match. But that was just the beginning. Hidden in the asteroid belt, disguised as mining equipment, were the real components of Project Prometheus. For 15 years, human engineers had been hollowing out asteroids and filling them with something that made the Zephyrin's plasma cannons look like flashlights. Antimatter. Not the carefully contained, precisely controlled antimatter that civilized species used for power generation. No, humans had weaponized it in the most reckless way possible. Each asteroid contained enough antimatter to crack a moon, and there were 50 of them. But here's the truly insane part. The part that still makes alien military strategists wake up in cold sweats. The humans weren't planning to use the antimatter as bombs. They were planning to use it as fuel. As the Terran fleet reached maximum velocity in their gravity-assisted dive, they fired their engines at full burn, not to slow down, but to accelerate even faster. At the precise moment they reached optimal speed, the asteroid mines activated. 50 controlled antimatter explosions erupted simultaneously throughout the asteroid belt. The energy release was visible from 3 star systems away. But instead of destroying everything in the belt, the explosions were shaped, focused, channeled through massive magnetic field generators that had been disguised as ore processors. The result was a directed energy pulse that accelerated every piece of debris in the asteroid belt to a significant fraction of light speed. Millions of rocks, from pebbles to planetoids, suddenly became relativistic projectiles, aimed directly at the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Kethmar had exactly 4.7 seconds to realize what was happening before the first wave of debris reached his ships. Zephyrian shields were designed to stop energy weapons and conventional projectiles. They were not designed to stop a mountain-sized asteroid traveling at 30% of light speed. The first impact vaporized the Zephyrian flagship instantly. The second took out 3 heavy cruisers. By the time the main wave hit, the proud Zephyrian battle fleet was being shredded by what was essentially a galaxy-scale shotgun blast. But the humans weren't done. Remember those ships that had been falling toward Earth? They'd used the gravity well to build up incredible velocity, and now they were coming back up, moving faster than any ship in galactic history. Their target wasn't the main Zephyrian fleet. It was the command ships that had stayed safely in the rear. The Zephyrians tried to retreat, but you can't outrun physics. The human ships, moving at velocities that should have torn them apart, slammed into the Zephyrian command vessels with the force of kinetic kill vehicles. In less than 10 minutes, the most powerful battle fleet in Zephyrian history had been reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma. The few surviving Zephyrian ships sent a desperate transmission to their home world. The humans. They're insane. They turned their entire star system into a weapon. Request immediate evacuation. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage the humans. But Admiral Chen wasn't finished. As the last Zephyrian ships limped away from the Sol system, she opened a channel to the Zephyrian home world. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force." Her voice carried across interstellar space with crystal clarity. "You came to our home. You threatened our people. You demanded our surrender." There was a pause, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the cold promise of a species that had just proven it would do anything to protect what it loved. "Consider this your only warning. Earth is not for sale. Earth is not for conquest, and if you ever threaten our world again, we'll show you what human overkill really looks like." The aftermath of the Battle of Sol, or as humans prefer to call it, Tuesday, sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy that are still being felt today. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled unchallenged for 3,000 years, suddenly found itself facing a species that didn't just break the rules of warfare, they rewrote them entirely. Within a month, 17 Zephyrian colonies had declared independence. Within a year, the empire had collapsed entirely. But here's what really terrified the other galactic powers. Humans had used their own star system as a weapon. They turned their home into a fortress, so deadly that approaching it was essentially suicide. And they'd done it with technology that every other species had dismissed as primitive. The galactic community's response was swift and unanimous. They invited Earth to join the Galactic Council, not as a junior member or a protectorate, but as a full partner with veto power over military actions. It was the fastest anyone had ever gone from primitive backwater to galactic superpower. And it happened because humans had demonstrated something that no other species possessed: the absolute willingness to sacrifice everything to protect what mattered most. Admiral Chen became the first human to address the Galactic Council, and her speech is still quoted today. "You call us primitive because we use kinetic weapons instead of energy beams. You call us backward because we prefer nuclear fusion to antimatter reactors. You call us young because we've only been in space for a few centuries." She paused, looking around the chamber at representatives from hundreds of species. "But there's something you need to understand about humans. We don't fight to win. We don't fight for territory or resources or glory. We fight to survive. And when survival is on the line, there is no such thing as overkill." The Prometheus protocol was officially classified and sealed, but rumors of its existence spread throughout the galaxy. Some species tried to replicate it, but they all failed for the same reason: they weren't crazy enough. You see, the Prometheus protocol required something that no other species possessed: the willingness to turn your own home into a weapon, knowing that if you miscalculated even slightly, you'd destroy everything you were trying to protect. Only humans were insane enough to bet their entire civilization on a plan that had a 50% chance of working. And that's why, even today, no species has ever again threatened Earth directly. Because everyone knows that humans don't just have weapons. They are weapons. And when you threaten something a human loves, you're not just facing their military, you're facing their imagination. And that's the most terrifying force in the galaxy. So there you have it. The story of how humanity's last stand became the moment we announced ourselves as a galactic power. The Zephyrians learned what every bully eventually discovers. Sometimes the quiet kid in the corner isn't weak. Sometimes they're just waiting for the right moment to show you what they're really capable of. The Battle of Seoul proved three things that the galaxy still remembers today. First, never underestimate a species that's willing to weaponize their own star system. Second, human primitive technology becomes a lot less primitive when it's moving at relativistic speeds. And third, when humans say, "Come and take it," they're not issuing a challenge. They're offering you a chance to reconsider. Today, Earth stands as one of the most respected and feared worlds in the galaxy. Not because we conquered anyone, but because we proved that some things are worth any sacrifice to protect. The Prometheus protocol remains classified, but its legacy lives on in the simple fact that no one has ever again made the mistake of threatening humanity's home. What do you think? Was the Prometheus protocol justified, or did humanity go too far? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing your thoughts on these stories. If you enjoyed this tale of human ingenuity and determination, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about humanity's place in the cosmos. I've got some incredible tales coming up, including the story of how humans accidentally started a galactic trade war by introducing the concept of customer service, and the time Earth's diplomatic corps had to explain why humans keep dangerous predators as pets. Until next time, remember, in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can be is human. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.